Hi everyone. I am talking a little bit about how to know what to eat, when to eat, what is up with eating and timing and all the products that are out there. This video is inspired by my friend who had posted in the health group that I am co-hosting about a product called Glucerna, which you may be familiar with, but it kind of inspired my thoughts on this subject. And it's interesting because I have worked with patients for a really long time on their health and how to choose what to eat and how to know what's out there. Is it okay? Is it not okay? How to read a label, things like that. And I think it's so interesting that the programming that comes in the world is always kind of wrapped in this convenient, nutritious, it's good for you. But then when you look a little deeper, there's a lot of red flags and a lot of questions that come up. And so you can't necessarily believe everything that it's promoted and advertised. And that was actually what he kind of brought up anyways. It's promoted as this, nutritious product to control blood sugars and things like that. But what do you think? And I think that it's very interesting that labels, products, companies can get away with sounding like they're nutritious, but when you do a deeper dive, it kind of blows your mind, like, how do they get away with this? And as I told him and the group in my response to that, is my first thing, if a product is basically processed, let's just say processed, so that means that it's not a piece of meat, a fruit, a vegetable, the whole grain rice or whatever, anything that ended up having to have a nutrition label on it, my first thing is to look at the ingredients, not even necessarily you can look at the breakdown of protein, fat, sugar, and things like that. That's totally fine. And that would be a quick way to look and see how much added sugar or something like that. But I definitely would look at the ingredients on the label. And you can pretty quickly tell if this is a product that is going to be compatible with your body. And the reason I say that is, if you can't pronounce those ingredients, you probably heard this before many times, but if you can't pronounce the ingredients, or you have to look up what every little thing is, and there's a lot of them, more than likely, this is not stuff that's compatible with the human body. God made us very resilient. We can kind of get away with stuff for a while, and we can get away with stuff here and there, emergency situation. I said, Glucerna bottle of drink, it will keep you from dying if you had low blood sugar, if you had no food. But is it really a nutritious option? No. First of all, it has milk, dairy, which some people, still are good with dairy. I'm not a big fan of people drinking and using cow's milk because I don't think it's a natural protein for us. Baby calves, yes. Adult humans, even children. To a certain extent, my family still uses milk. Not my daughter and myself, but my husband and my son do. And I don't, I'm not going to push my nutritional choices on them. They know and they can decide for themselves. They're adults. But to me, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I'm not a big fan of drinks that are just milk based. But if you like that, you tolerate that, that's fine. Let's move on to the next thing. Canola oil. No. Don't want oil in my milk. I don't want oil in my drink. And I certainly don't want canola oil or vegetable oil. So the oils that are something that our body can actually make use of, and that depending on what type you get, like you need to get extra virgin olive oil, better to get like cold pressed coconut oil. Coconut oil, avocado oil, as far as I'm aware, and extra virgin olive oil, those are oils that were made in ways that are not kind of toxic to your body, or not going to cause you to have a strong inflammatory response. So any of the other oils I try to avoid. Every now and then, if I'm making like an Asian dish, I will put a little bit of sesame oil in the pan to kind of give it that sesame flavor, but even that I don't do much or very often. So I don't like the fact that the Glucerna label had oil in it. Then the rest of the label is a long panel of preservatives, artificial ingredients. Some of it is sort of a cheap version of vitamins in kind of a form that will dissolve into the liquid. But even those are not the most absorbable vitamins. So I would say something like Glucerna is a emergency only type of drink. I would not recommend that that's something that people use on a daily basis or as a meal substitute or things like that. As far as what we should be eating, how we should be eating, I really believe and go along with a lady named Barbara O'Neill, who has been in the nutrition and health world for a long time, mostly from her own experience of raising her own children. She raised them, I think, in a rainforest. I mean, she kind of had a situation where she had to figure things out a lot. But I do believe in the way that she recommends for us to eat. We eat, she always says, breakfast as a king, lunch as a queen, and dinner as a pauper. So you fuel your vehicle before you start your trip, right? So you eat your larger meal in the beginning of the day, a medium-sized meal halfway through, and a very light meal at the end. And that's not only because the fuel aspect of it, but also our body can go into repair mode a whole lot easier if we don't have a huge meal stuffing us right before we go to sleep. We really want our body to go through a process of being able to get into deep rest and also repair. So rest and repair are going to do a whole lot better when you're not also trying to digest a bunch of stuff. Also, whole foods. So I tend to go more plant-based and away from animal products, but if you do eat animal products, I would try to get grass-fed, pasture-raised, organic and all of that kind of thing. And try to keep it to the good stuff, but a small amount. And then an abundance of vegetables, fruit, nuts and seeds, things like that. I think that we have become very programmed to think that we have to have, bread, and we have to have even fast food. People think that's very normal. It's really not normal. That's not how our bodies were designed to process all of that. And a lot of the things that we bring into our home that are supposed to be convenient are kind of working against us. We can get away with it here and there, but for the most part, not really going to be good for us in the long run. And so trying to really look at labels, I try to avoid labels in the first place. So if you are eating a lot more whole food, you're not really going to have a lot of labels to analyze. There's not a whole lot to do with that. I do buy salad dressing, mostly from Trader Joe's. I get their vegan Caesar. I really love that one. It's made with very natural ingredients, nothing weird, but really tasty. And I buy stuff like that to be kind of convenient, to cut corners a little bit. I do still make salad dressing as well, in my red onion one that a lot of you may be familiar with. But I think that we do tend to really get caught up in what the world, society kind of has programmed us to think is normal. And it's really hurting us. And it kind of frustrates me too, because even when I look at like the American Diabetic Association website, a lot of the stuff they recommend is either cancer, um, what's the word that I'm looking for? It kind of is a trigger for cancer. It's been known in other countries that they've banned those, some of those ingredients, and yet it's because the funding for the American Diabetic Association comes from companies that sell that kind of stuff. And so we have to be really cautious that where we're getting our advice from and who's getting paid for that, right? So I don't like to always be in a conspiracy mindset, but I think we have to be careful that we don't just believe what we're told. Kind of get back to grassroots. What makes sense? Does it make sense to pour all of these ingredients through me that have to go through my liver filter and my kidney filter, and they have to figure out what to do with this stuff? It is not good for our bodies. So the more products that you consume that have those ingredient lists, the less health you're going to have. Fat cells are going to get packed. Your liver is going to get fatty. You're not going to come to like a normal homeostasis within your body. And we can kind of survive for a long time on even junky stuff. People do all the time. But most people don't want to just survive. We want to thrive, right? And that is where we want to kind of step outside of the kind of the culture that is being promoted for convenience, fast fix, and try to really get into what did God design? How did he design it? He made us as one of his creations, along with all of the beautiful things in the world, and they are supposed to be compatible. All of this junky stuff that we have introduced, not compatible. Okay, so I don't know if that gave you enough details. Maybe you want more specific, but I thought that let's give kind of an overview again. Probably done this more than enough for everyone, and you probably already know most of this, but I think it's a good idea to kind of reset and remind ourselves like, okay, yeah, I need to get back to what makes sense. What's common sense? Tell me. And we all have it, you know, thank God he gave us brains that can figure these things out. All right, so thanks for being with me, and I will see you in the next video.